My daughter started pointing at the corner of her bedroom ceiling when she was 14 months old. Not every night. Just sometimes. I'd go in after hearing her on the monitor, and she'd be standing in her crib, one arm raised, finger aimed at the upper left corner where the two walls met the ceiling. Not crying. Not scared, as far as I could tell. Just pointing. Like she was showing me something I needed to see. I told my husband it was nothing. Babies fixate on things. Shadows, patterns, changes in light. The pediatrician said the same. Normal developmental behavior. We repainted the corner in case there was a watermark or a discoloration catching her eye. Fresh, white paint. Nothing there. She kept pointing. For 7 months she kept pointing. By the time she could talk, around 22 months, I asked her what she was looking at. She turned to me with that very serious toddler expression and said, "The old man sitting up there." I kept my voice very calm. I asked her what the old man looked like. She thought about it for a moment and said, "He has a fuzzy face. He just watches me. He doesn't talk." I did not sleep in my own house for 3 nights after that. We stayed at my mother's. I told her it was a plumbing issue. When we came back, I set up a camera in the corner of the room, pointed at the ceiling, not at my daughter, and ran it for 2 weeks. Nothing unusual on any of the footage. No shadows, no light anomalies, nothing I couldn't explain. My daughter kept pointing, kept referencing the old man, started saying good morning to him, started saying good night. Then in December, my husband's father died. Heart attack. Unexpected. He had lived across the country and we hadn't seen him in over a year. My daughter had met him exactly once, at 7 months old, which she would have no memory of. At the funeral, my husband's aunt pulled out a photo album. Old photos, mostly. His father as a young man, then middle-aged, then older. My daughter was in my lap, half asleep, not paying attention. Then she sat up, reached out and put her finger on one of the photos. His father at around 70, with a full gray beard. "That's him," she said. "The man in my room." I don't have an explanation for that. I've tried to construct one for 4 years, and I cannot. She was 7 months old when she met him. We had no photos of him displayed in our home. No videos she could have seen. She identified him from a photo she had never seen, of a man she had no reason to remember, as the presence she had been waving at from her crib for 14 months. She stopped pointing at the corner 3 weeks after the funeral. She never mentioned the old man again. When I ask her now, she says she doesn't remember. She's 5. She tells me the corner is just a corner. And I almost believe her. My son started telling me about the man who stood in the hallway at night when he was 3.5. I want to be very precise about the timeline because it matters. He started telling me in March. What we found happened the following October. We had recently moved into a rental house. A 2-story place in a suburb I won't name. Older construction, good neighborhood, nothing that should have set off any instincts. My son Eli had his own room at the end of the upstairs hall. He was in a toddler bed by then, And a few weeks after we moved in, he started getting up at night and coming to our room. Which wasn't unusual. New house, adjustment period. But what he said when he got there was unusual. He kept telling me there was a man standing in the hallway. Not in his room. Specifically in the hallway near the top of the stairs. Standing there and watching him. "He doesn't come in," Eli said once. "He just stands there and looks at my door." I checked the hallway every time. Every single time. Every time it was empty. I told myself it was the transition, the new environment, the shadows cast by the streetlight through the hall window. I put a night light in the hall. I left his door open. He kept coming to get me. He kept describing the man. Over several months, the description became more specific. Tall. He said the man wore a dark jacket. He said the man's hands were wrong. When I asked what he meant, he grabbed his own wrists and said, "Too long, Mama. The fingers too long." He said the man never spoke. He said the man sometimes turned his head very slowly. In October, we had a break-in. Or what we initially thought was a break-in. A neighbor noticed our basement window had been forced from the outside. We called the police. They came, swept the house, told us whoever had done it was gone. Took a report. We changed the locks. 3 days later, the police called back. They had been looking into the previous tenants of the property. It emerged that a man, an ex-partner of the woman who had rented before us, had a documented history of entering that house without permission. He had done it during her tenancy repeatedly. There was a restraining order on file. The assumption was that when she moved out, he didn't understand that the restraining order moved with her. Or he understood and didn't care. He had been entering through that basement window, not stealing anything, not damaging anything. According to the detective, the best reconstruction was that he had been coming in at night, moving through the house and leaving before morning. For an undetermined number of months. The detective described him as tall, with an unusually thin build. I did not tell the detective what my 3-year-old had been telling me since March. I didn't know how to say it out loud to another adult. But I lay awake that night doing the math. 7 months of Eli coming to my room. 7 months of a man standing at the top of our stairs in the dark. My child seeing clearly what I had dismissed as imagination. Every single night. Standing at his door. Not coming in. Just watching. My daughter drew the same figure for 8 months before I understood what I was looking at. She was 4 years old. Crayon drawings on printer paper, which is what all 4-year-olds produce. And most of it was normal, the kind of art you put on a refrigerator and forget. But scattered throughout her drawings, appearing again and again, was the same shape. A tall, dark form. No face. Standing in what looked like a doorway. When I asked her who it was, she called it the waiting one. Not a name. She said it the same way a child says the mailman or the dog across the street. A category. Something with an established, understood role. I asked her what it was waiting for. She said, for someone to be ready. I went through the drawings more carefully that night. She had been drawing this figure in the background of other pictures. in the corner of a drawing of our living room, at the edge of a picture of our backyard, in the doorway of what I recognized as her bedroom. Always in a doorway. Always tall. Always faceless. I counted 14 drawings with the figure in them. I spoke to her preschool teacher. She was not alarmed. Told me some children this age develop persistent imaginary figures, that it was a normal expression of narrative thinking. I almost let that settle the question. My mother came to visit in November. She was 71, and she had been dealing with a diagnosis for about 6 months that we had kept quiet around the kids. Stage 3, manageable, they said, but she'd had a bad few weeks. She didn't look like herself. My daughter brought her a drawing as a welcome gift. She does this, draws something for people when they arrive. Usually it's a portrait, or a house, or a rainbow. She handed my mother a drawing of a woman in a garden. Flowers, sunshine, the unmistakable lumpy oval figure meant to be my mother. And standing in the garden gate, right at the entrance, was the tall, dark figure. My mother looked at it for a long moment. Then she looked at my daughter and said quietly, "Who is that, sweetheart?" My daughter looked at it, then at my mother, with an expression I can only describe as gentle. Very serious, very calm, the way she gets when she's trying to explain something she considers obvious. "That's the one who's going to help you go," she said. "Don't be scared. It's nice." My mother passed away 4 months later. Faster than anyone expected. My daughter attended the small family gathering afterward and was quiet, contained. While the adults were falling apart, she moved through the room with a kind of settled calm I had never seen in her before. She has not drawn the figure since the day of my mother's funeral. I've noticed. I've been watching. It's simply gone from her artwork. Like she no longer sees it, or like whatever she was drawing is no longer standing in the doorways of our life. At least, I tell myself that. At least for now. My son was 2 years and 9 months old when he told me how my grandmother died. She passed before he was born. He had never been told anything about her. She was a subject we didn't bring up for reasons that had nothing to do with him. It started because of a photograph. My mother was visiting and left a photo album on the coffee table. Old family photos, the kind of physical album nobody makes anymore. My son picked it up the way toddlers pick up everything, flipping pages with that random determination. He stopped on a photo of my grandmother taken in the 1970s. She would have been in her 40s, standing in front of a house I'd never seen. She was sad, he said. My mother went very still. I asked him who. He pointed at my grandmother's photo. She was sad, and she couldn't breathe right. My grandmother had died of complications related to a condition that affected her breathing. My son did not know this. My son had never been in a room where this was discussed. He was not quite 3. I asked him, carefully, how he knew that. He shrugged the way very small children shrug. Total bodily indifference. She told me, he said, and went back to flipping pages. Over the next several months, he would occasionally reference her. Never in a frightening way. Never with distress. He spoke about her the way a child speaks about a neighbor they see sometimes. He told me she had a yellow kitchen. My mother confirmed that quietly, later, without me asking. He told me she had a dog that was not alive anymore either. There had been a dog. The detail that undid me was the house. He described a house she had lived in before my mother was born. A house that appeared in no photos we owned. A house I had never heard described. And gave specific details. The color of a door, a narrow staircase, a window that stuck. My mother cried when she heard it. Said she hadn't thought about that house in 30 years. Said everything he described was accurate. He stopped talking about her around his 4th birthday. Just stopped. No announcement, no last message. When I ask him now, he has no idea who I'm talking about. He's 6.5, and he doesn't remember any of it. I used to find that comforting. That he forgot. That whatever door had been open in him closed quietly and naturally as he grew. But lately I find myself wondering if forgot is the right word. Or whether something that let itself be seen through a small child for 1.5 years, something patient enough to wait for a 2-year-old to develop enough language to carry a message, would simply leave when it was done. My daughter was 5 when she started talking about the girl who stood outside her window. Our house backed onto a wooded lot, a narrow strip of trees between our yard and the next street. Her bedroom window faced that tree line, and she slept with the curtain slightly open because she liked the moonlight. I had never thought to question this. She told me about the girl casually one morning over breakfast. A girl about her size, she said, standing at the edge of the trees, just watching the window. I assumed she had dreamed it, or seen a neighbor's child playing late. I asked her when she'd seen her. She said, "Every night. She waves at me sometimes." I closed her curtains that night. My daughter opened them before I got back down the hall. She told me the girl would be sad if she couldn't see in. I looked out her window that night after she was asleep. Nothing at the tree line. Just shadow and pale trunks and the particular stillness of a lot of dead air between suburban properties. I told myself, nothing. 2 weeks later, my daughter described the girl more specifically. Dark hair. She thought the girl's dress was old-fashioned. She said, like a princess, but not a nice one, an old one. She said the girl never came past the trees. Just stood there. Just watched. She's waiting for me to come out, she said. I moved the bed away from the window that weekend and switched rooms with her. I told her it was because I wanted her to have the bigger room. A month after that, our neighbor 2 houses down, a woman I knew casually from the school pickup, knocked on my door. She was looking for her daughter. 8 years old, dark hair, had been playing in the yard and hadn't come in. Could I have seen her? They found the girl 3 hours later, at the far end of the wooded lot, sitting against a tree and unable to say how she had gotten there. She was fine. Uninjured, just disoriented. The police attributed it to a child wandering further than intended. She was wearing an old-fashioned dress. A costume, it turned out. She'd been in a school play rehearsal that afternoon. A pioneer costume. Long skirt, high collar. My daughter never mentioned the girl again after that night. When I told her gently, without details that a little girl had been found safe in the trees, she nodded in a way that was entirely too settled for a 5-year-old. "She wasn't there for me," my daughter said. "She was just lost." And then she asked what was for dinner. And that was that. Except that I still think about what she said. Because the way she said it, not relieved, not surprised, just stating a fact she had apparently already worked out, implied something I still haven't been able to dismiss. That my daughter had been watching that tree line too. That she had been sorting out, in her 5-year-old way, whether whatever was out there had come specifically for her. And had concluded, with a certainty she did not earn through any logic I can follow, that this time it hadn't. Even the darkest stories leave something behind. Stay with me. There are more stories.